Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Skill Up podcast, an initiative took in the context of the project dissemination. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Konstantinos Georgiou, the project manager of Skill Up. And let me first say a few words about Skill Up to briefly put the podcast in context. So Skill Up is a 3-year initiative, a Horizon Europe project that aims at building a platform to tackle skill gaps and skill mismatches. We aim at targeting the platform towards European citizens, educational institutions, industrial stakeholders and policymakers that can take informed decisions about skill gaps, skill requirements and skill demand and supply across the European labour market. And in the context of that, we have one primary group that benefits from the use of the platform, and this is HR departments. So we all know, of course, that HR is a vital part of an industry because HR reps select personnel, hire personnel based on required skills and supplied skills. But frequently this is a problem because HR departments do not know which candidate is more ideal because candidates supply skills that may not be necessary for a position. And in the other part, job positions demand skills that cannot be acquired easily by the candidates. So to put that in context and to highlight upskilling and reskilling in terms of HR, I have today with me Associate Professor Panagiotis Gkorezis. Panagiotis, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Konstantine. Thank you for your invitation.
So can you briefly introduce yourself and your expertise?
Yes, of course. As you said, I'm Panagiotis Gkorezis. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Economics at Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. And my areas of expertise include organizational behavior and human resource management.
So allow me to proceed with the first question, which is quite straightforward, I must say. So why do you think that upskilling and reskilling have become such critical topics in today's labor market?
Yes, so Konstantine, upskilling and reskilling are critical issues in the modern workplace, mainly due to constant technological advancements that change job positions and roles. In addition, we have the skills gaps that are growing not only because of technology, but also due to the mismatch, the misfit between education and industry needs, as well as, of course, the rise of new generations like Gen Z. To address these challenges, organizations and employees must adapt and continuously develop their skills.
Yes, you're quite right in that. And speaking of challenges, we can understand that companies need to upskill and reskill their workforce. So, speaking of that, what if they fail to do so? So, the big picture. In today's rapidly changing job market, what are the biggest risks for companies that fail to upskill and reskill their workforce? Are we talking about reduced competitiveness, higher turnover, or something even bigger?
Konstantine, we talk about everything because companies that fail to upskill and reskill their human resources, their workforce, face serious challenges that can threaten their long-term sustainability. For example, as you said, we may lead to reduced competitiveness, a higher turnover, which is a very important metric. We may result in lower productivity, decreased creativity and innovation. All these are very fundamental for business success. In addition, I have to say, I really need to say this, talent attraction and employer branding may suffer as well, because as younger generations actively seek opportunities for skill development, a company that does not invest in such initiatives, upskilling and reskilling, may struggle to attract top talent, and this may weaken its recruitment and selection process. Of course, these negative outcomes relate to organizations. However, we have also some serious negative consequences for individuals as well. For example, we have increased job insecurity, lower employability, and of course, as a result, negative emotions and a lack of motivation.
Yes, lack of motivation is a very serious issue, and I think that we are going to hear a lot of reskilling and upskilling in this interview.
Yes,
but let's move beyond these buzzwords. So, upskilling and reskilling are terms we hear a lot, but what do they actually mean in practice? So, can you, for example, share a company that truly got it right in terms of these two buzzwords?
Yes, let's start with, let's say, a definition of upskilling and reskilling. Upskilling refers to enhancing employees' existing skills, expanding thus their knowledge in their current roles, and ultimately improving their performance. On the contrary, reskilling involves training employees in new skills which will help them to respond to different roles within the company. So, if I need to give some examples, I would refer to, for example, a software developer who learns a new programming language in order to stay relevant with evolving technology trends. This is an upskilling example. If I need to illustrate an example of reskilling, I could say that, for example, an HR expert, an HR professional who learns data analysis and workforce analytics in order to take on a more strategic HR role. So because you asked me about an example from an organization, I think that one of the best examples that I can offer is that of Amazon, which has invested more than 1.2 billion to provide free skills training opportunities to more than 350,000 US employees in the context of their upskilling program, which launched in 2019.
So, yeah, Amazon is quite ambitious on that, and they have the resources to do so. So I suppose that they will have a measurable impact on their upskilling trajectories, let's say. But measuring impact directly, so not all companies are Amazon, right? So many companies struggle to track whether their upskilling programs are actually working. So how can we measure the success? Is that in terms of productivity, employee satisfaction, innovation, retention in the end?
Very good question, Kostadine. Indeed, there are several metrics that can help measuring the effectiveness of such programs. Initially, I would like to say that every training initiative should be assessed in order to determine whether the investment was worthwhile, what we call ROI, return of investment. In this context, key metrics, we can include several key metrics, for example, job performance indicators, employee satisfaction and engagement in relation to the training programs, and overall retention and turnover rates. These are some key metrics that we could use, along, of course, with more business-oriented measures such as revenue growth, customer satisfaction, and so on, which are all very critical to overall success.
So, thank you for this. So, you mentioned business-oriented measures, and it's often that we see a mindset difference. What I mean is that we could say that we have skill gaps versus mindset gaps. And do you think that the biggest challenge is actually the lack of skills, or is it the resistance to learning and change that we often see in the higher ranks of the companies? And how can HR address employee reluctance or even CEO, let's say, reluctance to reskilling?
Yes, that's a great point, Kostadine, because, I say this to my lectures, that statistics show that resistance to change is one of the biggest problems, one of the biggest barriers to successful change management initiatives, because reskilling and upskilling are such initiatives. Okay. So, we have a problem here with the high levels of resistance to change. And to make matters worse, there are many instances where employees appear willing to change but are not fully committed and engaged. This lack of engagement can prevent them from fully utilizing and demonstrating, of course, the maximum benefits of upskilling and reskilling efforts. So I guess, Kostadine, that you want to ask me, okay, how can we mitigate or eliminate this resistance? Am I right?
You got me. You got me.
Great. Yeah. So there are several useful and effective tools. For example, this occurs in any organizational change. Clear and effective communication about the processes and the benefits of the training program is always essential. So we need to be clear to communicate clearly what we really want to achieve and by which means and processes we can lead to these outcomes. Moreover, top management also plays a crucial role as it needs to demonstrate daily support regarding technical, emotional, or even cognitive levels. Finally, I'm quite sure that rewards can also play a pivotal role in reducing resistance, because when we recognize and we reward employees for participating successfully and applying such training programs can be highly beneficial.
Yes, of course, I suppose that providing some rewards is essential for an employee to keep learning.
Exactly, to keep motivating and, as its name denotes, reward.
Yes.
Reward when implement such initiatives.
Exactly. So, and that leads to my next question regarding company culture and learning. So, what role does company culture play in making upskilling an ongoing practice rather than a one-time thing? So, in essence, can HR gamify the learning experience to increase engagement?
Yes and yes. What I mean is that organizational culture can indeed instill values such as exploration, curiosity, continuous learning, and in this way, organization can foster these behaviors in employees' daily routines. So, such cultural issues, such cultural elements can be very effective and permit, let's say, the daily routines of the employees. Additionally, because you asked me about gamification and gamified tools, you are right to ask, because gamified tools can really make a good job here and help the entire process and make the entire process more engaging, enjoyable, and ultimately enhance employee participation and satisfaction from this process. Because if we have high levels of satisfaction and all the employees be engaged in this process, the performance of the employees will be, of course, higher.
Yeah, which is, of course, beneficial for the company as
yes,
well.
because as we say, and this is very important, individual job performance leads to organizational performance. This is the cornerstone of the whole organizational behavior and human resource management topic.
Okay, I see. That's very interesting. So, okay, I think that we have analyzed the learning part. So let's circle back to the concept of Skill Up, which is skill gaps. And I want to ask you firstly, what role do universities and business schools play in addressing said skill gaps?
I think they play a central role, because university and management schools can serve as catalysts by implementing a range of effective practices. For example, and I'm quite sure that you will agree with this, they can align their courses with industry needs and market demands.
Yes,
I think you agree, right?
I more than agree with this.
Exactly. In addition, they can develop strong collaborations with companies. Also, they can offer modules that focus on contemporary skills, including both soft, digital, and AI skills. Lastly, they can contribute through robust research projects and provide valuable tools to the market, like SkillUp does, Konstantine. Are you agree? Do you agree?
Yes, SkillUp is actually a very timely solution, let's say, to skill gaps. At least we hope to be when we have the first version of a platform, which is bound to happen soon enough.
I think that it is a very effective tool, and I would like to elaborate more on this. I mean, what is the outcome? What is the ultimate purpose of the Skill Hub?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for the question. So, actually, what we want to deliver is a platform, essentially a tool that can be used by 4 parties. And let me illustrate with what each party can benefit from using the platform. So, if someone is a European citizen, he or she can use a platform to, let's say, find learning pathways. For example, if I want to become a data scientist, what skills should I invest upon? What educational programs are there? Which companies can I be hired to, and which skills should I learn to be hired, to have a higher chance of being hired, at least in a company? On the other hand, industrial stakeholders like HR departments, for example, can have an overview of the European landscape and know at all times whether an occupation needs a specific skill, whether there are emerging skills, skill trends to invest upon, and call specific candidates for a position, or design educational programs, for example, upskilling initiatives and reskilling programs. On the other hand, education institutions should use the platform to design better curricula for upskilling and reskilling, because, as we said, there is a gap in skill demand and supply. And finally, a policy analyst in the EU, for example, could use the platform to find proper ways to design mandates, governmental instructions on specific skills, and generally on the upskilling climate of the European Union that's been going on in the last few years.
Being a part of this project, I think that overall the Skill Lab will be an excellent contribution to the employment market, and congratulations for this effort.
Oh, thank you very much. We try our best, to be honest.
Thank you for my participation to this project.
Of course. We're glad to have you, to be honest.
Thank you, Konstantinos. Let's move to the next question.
Yeah. Let's move on. So, yes, my favorite question, to be honest, the HR crystal ball, as we have named it. So, if you had to predict the future of work, what's one skill that you believe will be absolutely essential for employers and employees, no matter the industry, a cross-essential skill, let's say?
Excellent and difficult question.
Yes, I know.
I want a favor, Konstantinos, because it is very difficult to choose one. Can at least make it two, please?
Okay, I can give you that.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So my first choice would be adaptability, because adaptability is a soft skill, is a skill which is extremely important because the organization and environment is fast changing and turbulent. Therefore, the ability to learn, unlearn what you have learned, and acquiring new knowledge is, I think, of utmost importance. Additionally, this is the second one that I asked from you.
Yes.
Additionally, I could say that communication skills are highly valued in the contemporary workplace. So, agreeing with this, I would like to choose as my second choice the communication skills. However, because we talked about adaptability before,
yes.
so I would like to adapt my answer and my option, and say that I would like to. I'm quite sure that adaptability, not only in the form of interpersonal communication, but also communicating and interacting effectively with AI, is very, very important. And I'm quite sure that in the near future it will be much more important as well.
So it's quite interesting that you mentioned two soft skills and not two hard skills. And actually, while researching the potential fronts of Skill Lab, we have stumbled upon a new concept, HUMIX, which is essentially some soft skills that are irreplaceable in the workplace and carry on throughout the years and will never be changed, and how they can be combined with hard skills to produce a hybrid skill.
Yeah, I mean, soft skills is what we say are transmittable to every workplace. So I think that they are very, very important. And of course, there is a host of soft skills that also, as we said before, universities need to cultivate to the students. So there is a bundle of such soft skills that are very crucial for the modern workplace. But if I wanted to choose two, I would say adaptability and communication. I repeat, not only regarding the interpersonal communication, but also communicating with AI.
Yeah, particularly with ChatGPT and DeepSeek in recent years.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can understand this. And based on your expertise and adaptability, what advice would you give to individuals looking to future-proof their careers, let's say?
Okay, of course, as all agree, the need to develop digital and AI skills is very important. Also, individuals need to demonstrate adaptability, as we mentioned earlier, of course, and cultivate their soft skills. And of course, embrace a spirit, a mode of continuous learning. These are all important, and we all agree with this. However, my two key suggestions are quite different. And I think that these two suggestions are, I would say, umbrella advices. My first is to pursue what you really love and are passionate about, because if you love something, if you are passionate about something, you give all your energy, you give all your effort, And this helps you very important with what you need to achieve. And of course, a second tip is to believe in yourself and your abilities. It's what we call self-efficacy in the literature. These two are very, very important, and I could say that they are the core ingredients for success. If you have them, everything else will follow.
Oh yes, that's very inspiring, I must say. And
Thank you.
I mean, we in Skill Lab we also agree with this. Even though we analyze skills in principle, I agree that doing what you like and believing in yourself cannot be replaced by any skill.
Exactly. All the issues start from this point, from the love, from the passion, and from believing in ourselves.
And to conclude, let's say, what are the key takeaways for policymakers, businesses, and individuals regarding upskilling and reskilling in the context of your expertise?
Mm-hmm. As a professor, of course, of organizational behavior and human resources, I can emphasize, I'm sure that you will understand me,
Yeah.
I can only emphasize the importance of investing in human resources. See them as an investment and not as a cost is very, very important. Human resources provide, or at least are likely to provide, can provide countries and organizations with a competitive advantage. And as I'm saying in my lectures, human resources are the most valuable assets. So all stakeholders, more broadly speaking, must recognize also the importance of lifelong learning and adopting a growth mindset. Upskilling and reskilling are not trends. They are not buzzwords, as we said in our beginning.
Yes, it's good to hear that.
Yeah. They are very, very essential for economic growth, for business survival and prosperity, and of course, at an individual level, they are very important for personal career success.
So, thank you, Panagiotis, for being a part of this project and for accepting the invitation today.
Thank you too, Konstantine. I enjoy talking with you about a topic that is always very important and is of great value.
Yeah, and quite timely, I must say.
Exactly.
Yeah, HR is very important for Skill Lab as well. So we try to find ways to integrate the HR mindset in the platform and in the context as a whole. So this is the first episode of the Skill Lab podcast, and stay tuned for more.